We've begun an interesting adventure to follow in the footsteps of those early believers. We want to ask the question, what gave them the passion, the commitment to the message? What did Jesus give them that uniquely prepared those men and women for ministry to the larger world, in particular to the place called Asia Minor? The land of Galilee is a living illustration of the life and teaching of Jesus. It's a beautiful place here on the northwest corner of the Sea of Galilee in an ancient town called Chorazin. Jesus came here as a Jewish rabbi. As a rabbi, he would have been very familiar with synagogues like this one. Some things in here that were typical to first century synagogues. Over here would have been a beautiful enclosure called the Holy Ark, and inside the Torah scrolls and the scroll of the prophets and the writings. Over here, the Moses seat of honor. Jesus refers to it. Probably sat in one himself in the synagogue of Nazareth. Over here, a bema, a little platform raised only slightly from the floor of this synagogue, and the person who read the very words of God to the eager hearers stood here. The Word of God right in the midst of the community. Jesus would have been familiar with all of that. He was a rabbi. Jesus, like other rabbis, chose disciples. Talmidim, they were called in Hebrew. Now that's important because we think sometimes of disciples as students, people who want to know what the teacher knows. A Talmid is someone who wants to be what the rabbi is. A passionate commitment to know what he knows, to act like he acts, to have his godly character. And one of the things that uniquely prepared those followers, those students, was that they had a passion to be like their teacher. And boy, were they going to need that in Asia Minor. The second thing I find in Jewish rabbis that's very helpful to me is that Jesus came to teach the Torah. Now, fulfilling the Torah is a technical rabbi's term. To fulfill the Torah doesn't mean to do away with it. To fulfill the Torah means to interpret it so that people keep it correctly. Jesus' mission was to go to the Torah, to take it out, and to use it to show his followers how God wanted them to live in this relationship we call Christianity. And as they learned how to live God's way, they found the real meaning and purpose in life. Now, to be sure, he didn't teach them that you get saved by keeping the Torah, but keeping the Torah was important because in the world of Asia Minor, people did not understand that there was a connection between their religion and how they lived. Religion for them was a way to get success, and how they lived, morality, really didn't matter. And part of the power of the message of those Talmidim was God saying, I love you, I would establish a relationship with you, but it's important how you live. Rabbis also use a unique teaching method. They don't just give words and definitions and explanations. They use word pictures and literal concrete illustrations. When he's in Capernaum, he talks about millstones because they made millstones there. When he was out in the field, he talked about flowers and birds because there were flowers and birds there. You can see them, you can smell them, you can touch them. Became a significant part of the method of those early believers in Asia Minor. Fourth, rabbis, and Jesus was a great example of this, came to establish communities of followers. Was the Greek model to train someone to stand alone and to be self-sufficient and to have the knowledge and the truth? But it was the rabbi's method to create a community that supported each other, encouraged each other, corrected each other when necessary, so that the whole group worked together And again, boy, were they going to need that in Asia Minor. And the last thing that comes to mind as I'm here in Galilee is Jesus taught them about faith. Now, faith for me as a Westerner tends to be what I know, what I believe to be true. But faith for a Jewish person is a passionate commitment to action. Jesus honored people who weren't satisfied simply knowing the truth. He honored people who persistently, passionately, without giving up, pursued it and lived it. And boy, did those Talmidim, those students who wanted to be like him, have that passion. Jesus brought his disciples to a very, very evil place called Caesarea Philippi, one of the more pagan places in the culture where they lived in those times. It was a place that was nicknamed the Gates of Hell because of the worship of the god Pan and the cave where the water came out, in which people believed Pan returned to Hades itself. While he was there, he challenged his disciples to be willing to go out into their world, a very pagan place, and take on even the power of sin and death, even the power of hell itself, the gates of hell. And then he laid out a challenge to the crowd, maybe the crowd that was gathered there in order to be part of the pagan ceremonies. And he said to them, "Deny yourselves, take up your cross, and follow me. Become like me. What gain is it for a person to have the whole world and lose his soul?